Hey, good morning out there in Bigger Pockets land. This is Paul Moore with Wellings Capital, How to Lose Money podcast, and Bigger Pockets. And I'm so glad that all of you got up early, especially you folks on the West Coast. So shout out to you on the West Coast. Thank you for getting up early. My name's Paul Moore. I'm with Wellings Capital and Bigger Pockets, and we're going to get started in just a moment. We're going to talk about 10 pieces of real estate investing advice for newbies. Before we get started, though, tell me where you're from, give me your name, and I'll give you a shout out. Hey, Jackson Andrews, good morning. Danny Ramos, good morning. Hey, LaRue from Philadelphia. Amono Art, good to see you on here again. Tanya Poe, good morning. We're going to have very little time for Q&A today. So I'm going to jump right into this in a moment. You folks on Facebook, hopefully you can see me. I think I'm live on Facebook and Bigger Pockets. And we're going to get started here in a second. Hey, Amari. Hey, Amos. Hey, Sarah Spees. Good morning. Trying to get my chat box open here on Bigger Pockets Live, and we're going to roll. Hey, Chris Allen. Hey, thanks. That's very kind of you. Hey, Fortune Solis from the UK. Larry. Okay, Keith Crane from Ashburn. All right, that's close by. Michael Blanc country. Caroline, Gehrig, Chris Allen, Muncie, David Barker, Mary Bublitz. Hi, Dominique Bird. Hey, good morning from Modesto, California at 7:33 a.m. Hey, Philip from Charlotte. Okay, hey, Kara from Atlanta. Hey, Nick Torres from Houston. Hey, Dee from Jacksonville. Okay. The man with the plan from Philadelphia. Carlene's on from the Napa Valley. Hey, Bader. Okay, awesome. We're going to go over 10 pieces of real estate investing advice. And hey, Ashley from Canada. John from New Orleans. Okay, we're going to go over 10 pieces of real estate investing advice for every newbie. So hopefully, if you are a newbie or an experienced investor, you will be able to benefit from this. Really excited to go over this with you. I've been wanting to do this for a long time because it's really important that every investor take stock and learn a few investing principles that I didn't learn for a very long time. In fact, it took me decades of entrepreneurship to come across some of these lessons, and you can learn these right now. So, hey, Vinny Chopra. All right, so let's go. 10 pieces of advice for every real estate investing newbie. Piece of advice number one. Number one, learn to say no. Boundless optimism versus realism. Boundless optimism can be a really, really bad idea, okay? And so while we all as entrepreneurs love to be optimistic, it's often better to say no. In fact, Warren Buffett said, successful people say no a lot. Really successful people say no almost all the time. And so learn to say no. Number two is closely related. Make your default going into any real estate deal make your default to say, no, I'm walking away. In other words, when you go into a real estate deal, look for reasons to say yes, but assume you're going to say no. See, the problem is, as real estate investors, we're an entrepreneurial group, and entrepreneurs by nature are optimistic. That's what makes us entrepreneurs. Hey, Pamela from Sarasota. We are optimistic by nature. The problem is when you take that optimism into investing, it can really, really bite you. And the best investors are very non-emotional. And that's related to my second point. And that is, again, you should have your default to say no. Your default should be to say, I'm walking away. The deal's got to prove itself to me. In fact, that's number three real estate investing advice. And that is, don't fall in love with the deal. Fall in love with the numbers. Brandon Turner likes to say that. And this is about the importance of due diligence. So don't fall in love with the deal. In fact, it's probably better to analyze all the numbers really carefully and strike it off your list in most cases before you go out and even take a close look at it. And I say most cases because, let's face it, in real estate, you should be ready to say no about 9 out of 10 times. Don't jump at that first flip house. Don't jump at that first duplex or apartment complex. Don't jump at that first mobile home park. You got to be ready to say no a whole lot first, okay? So advice number 1, learn to say no. Number 2, have your default be walking away. Number 3, don't fall in love with the deal or the property, because it'll get you in trouble and you'll begin to see everything through that lens. What can happen is you can begin to take even the negatives and turn them around. Oh, there's a crack house next door. Well, I always wanted to help the poor. Really? Come on. So be ready to say no. Be ready to walk away. Don't fall in love with the deal. By the way, if you can help me out, I don't want to get fired from Bigger Pockets today. So if you would be kind enough to give me a thumbs up, a like, or a share, it would be awesome if you're enjoying this content and if you like Bigger Pockets. So advice number 4, you need to learn the difference between investing and speculating. When I sold my company in 1997 to a publicly traded firm in Michigan, I came out and I said, hey, I'm going to start a nonprofit and I'm going to be an investor. Well, actually, I wasn't an investor. I was a speculator, a gambler. That's all I knew. I didn't know the difference. And you need to know the difference, folks, because being an investor is different from being a speculator. Being an investor means this. Investing is when your principal is generally safe and you've got a chance to make a return. Speculating is when your principal is not at all safe and you have a chance to make a return. So investing versus speculating is very important. Paul Samuelson, the first Nobel Prize winner in economics from the United States, said, investing should be boring. Investing should be like watching paint dry or watching grass grow. If you want excitement, take $800 and go to Las Vegas. That's Paul Samuelson. Investing should be boring. Gary Keller, the most famous real estate broker in the world, tells us that the monotony of success is one of the reasons so few people succeed. When you get going, it becomes monotonous. It becomes doing what you're really, really good at over and over and over. Imagine a golfer hitting the same putt thousands and thousands and thousands of times. It gets boring for most people. It's the same with you as a real estate investor. When you get your groove, when you get your thousands of hours in to learn something, do it well and do it over and over and over, and be willing for it to be boring. That's point number 4, investing versus speculating. Point number 5, you need to learn to ask 3 questions, and you might want to jot this down. I got this from Keith Cunningham, who's got a great book called The Road Less Stupid, not The Road Less Traveled. Keith made $100 million, and then he lost it because he didn't apply a lot of the principles in his book. But he says we need to learn to ask 3 questions really well. Now, as entrepreneurs and investors, we're really good at the first one. The first one is, how much can I make? We're really good at that one. We're really good at seeing the upside. And the entrepreneurial spirit says, how much can I make if it goes well? Of course, the second question that less of us ask is, how much could I lose? If things go wrong, how much can I lose? And that's the really important question for you to ask. The third question, though, is a question that very few people ask, and this is for the investing pros. Who wants to go from newbie to pro? If that's you, ask this third question. Question 2, remember, was how much can I lose? Question 3 is, can I afford to lose that? If you can afford to take that loss, you might want to be able to go. You might want to go for this. But if you're playing double or nothing with the vast majority of your retirement savings, you probably really can't afford to lose that. Ask some of these people who are turning 65 today. Do you know 10,000 people are turning 65 today in the U.S.? Guess what? A third of them have exactly 0 saved for retirement. And 6 out of 10 have under $10,000 saved for retirement. How can that be in the most affluent society in world history? wow, the other countries, I mean, you folks from Canada and UK and others probably look at us and think that's crazy. Well, folks, this doesn't need to be you, and that's why you're here on Bigger Pockets. Have you joined Bigger Pockets Pro yet, by the way? If you haven't got a pro or a premium membership, you should check it out, because it has all kinds of tips and tools and tricks and backroom stuff and forms for every state to help you get ahead. And it gives you great discounts on things like Neighborhood Scout and discounts on legal information and forms and mortgages and all kinds of things that you can use. There's also a lot of information for contractors. You want to flip or do single-family home rentals. So 3 questions for the professional investor. Remember, if you're investing the most, thank you, Jackson Andrew, you're right. The pro's very worth it. One of the best investments, if not the best investment I've ever made in my 19 years in real estate investing. So remember to ask that 3rd question, can I afford this loss? This is why it's okay to speculate. I mean, Mark Zuckerberg, speculated. 25 years ago, last week, a guy you might have heard of, Jeff Bezos, speculated. He speculated on growing a big company. And the reason these guys are famous is they're the exception. Most people, go down in flames and you never hear of them. But ask that 3rd question, and you might want to tailor, your investments to the answer to that 1st, 2nd, and 3rd question. Number 6. Learn to use Scuttlebutt. Now, what's that? Well, Warren Buffett had 2 mentors. And by the way, I've got 2 books on real estate investing. I'm about to come out with my 3rd on self-storage investing. My last one was on apartment investing. It's on Amazon. And the 3rd book's on self-storage investing. I'm hoping it's going to be published by Bigger Pockets this fall. And then the 4th book I'm going to write is called Warren Buffett's Rules for Real Estate Investors. I'm studying Buffett right now, not Jimmy Buffett. Come on. Warren Buffett. Now, Brandon is out there studying Jimmy Buffett out on an island somewhere in the Pacific. But, hey, good for him. And by the way, if you do what I'm saying today on this show, you might be joining Brandon out in Hawaii. But learn to use Scuttlebutt. Now, Warren Buffett had 2 great mentors. And one was Phil Fisher, and the other was Benjamin Graham. Benjamin Graham looked strictly at the numbers. He looked strictly at the 10Ks. He did a great job. He wrote a book called The Intelligent Investor, and he just looked at the numbers. Now, Phil Fisher, the father of Ken Fisher of Fisher Investments, he actually looked for Scuttlebutt. That means he went out on site, he talked to the neighbors, he talked to the owner, he talked to the secretary, the assistant. He watched how the investment person that he was dealing with, Scuttlebutt, Scuttlebutt, Scuttlebutt. And he went out, and basically this is rumors, this is information, this is the lowdown, as they said in the 70s. This is going out and talking to employees, current employees, fired employees, employees who quit, all kinds of people who would know the truth about what's going on at a company or at a property. And for you, this would be going down to City Hall. I have learned so much by talking to employees at planning and zoning departments, or I met, you can meet somebody at a Starbucks or a gas station or the neighbor walking their dog. You will learn so much. You might find out that there was a terrible crime committed in that house, and that's why nobody wants to buy it. Or there's a rumor it's haunted, or something like that. Scuttlebutt will teach you so much, and it's really, really important that you do that. Sean asks, how do you, as that first-time buyer, I think you said first-time buyer, when you can't talk to the owner? Why not? Why not talk to the owner? You might upset your real estate agent. I have a real estate brokerage license, and if somebody wants to talk to an owner, I'll let them do it. If you can't, though, talk to everybody you can. See how the person treats the waiter at a restaurant. See if the person, maybe even give them a little test to see if they're willing to lie. Try to figure out if this is a truthful or not truthful person. You're welcome, Sean. So, and this can go, again, I'm talking to a wide range of people here. You might be investing with a syndicator or in a fund. You might be finding a partner. You might be doing all kinds of things from real estate investing. So again, look for Scuttlebutt. Look for all the information surrounding. And remember point number 2, and that is make your default no until everything proves itself out. Number 7, we're going over 10 ways, 10 pieces of advice for real estate newbies. And this is for all kinds of real estate investors as well. Number 7, simple, understandable, and predictable. Warren Buffett loved this kind of business. You know, he didn't invest in the internet. He didn't invest in tech stocks, and he was under incredible pressure. They said he was senile. They said he was outdated. In 1999, 20 years ago this year, he was being widely criticized for not investing in tech stocks, but he didn't actually know it was a tech bubble. It obviously was. And 2 years later, the world praised Warren Buffett for not investing in tech stocks. You know, he said, I don't want to invest in the internet. I don't know where it's going to be in 10 years. You know, even Amazon founder Jeff Bezos predicted that Amazon might not last over 30 years and it might go into decline. They're already at year 25. But you don't know where the future of something in tech will be. But Warren Buffett said this, I know the internet's not going to change the way people chew gum. Look for businesses, look for opportunities that are simple, understandable, not too complex, and that can't be automated away. Now, that's a risk for me. I'm writing a book on self-storage investing right now, and that's a risk for self-storage. It's possible that self-storage will become very heavily automated, and some of the older self-storage facilities will become obsolete. Is that possible? Yeah, I addressed that in the book. I believe it could happen, and that's something to take into account as you look at your time horizon, as you look at where you're investing, as you look at the barriers to entry, etc. And that's another one that's not on my list of 10. This is a free bonus. Look for properties with a moat around them. Warren Buffett talks about a moat, like around a castle, M-O-A-T, and that would be a property or an investment with a barrier to entry to keep somebody from competing with you next door. Would you rather invest in a self-storage facility in a downtown area that had no vacant land anywhere nearby? Or would you rather invest on one at the edge of town with a huge section of vacant land and farmland across the street where 2 other competitors could build next year? I think the answer is obvious. Look for properties with a moat or a barrier to entry. That was free. Number 8, partner well. Partner well. I'm a co-host of the How to Lose Money podcast, and we hear a lot of horror stories every week about how people lose money, how people lose businesses, how they lose time, how they lose everything. And a lot of the problems are with partnerships. By the way, I partner on every business and every deal I do, and it's usually with friends. It's people from my community, people from my church, people from, people that I know, and it almost always goes well. But here's my advice. I hear a lot of them that go south. Really be careful to do a tremendous amount of due diligence on your partner. That's right, Kara. Partner well. Look really behind the scenes at your partner's life. Not only do a background check, a credit check. Oh, if you hurt your feelings, don't worry about hurting their feelings. You're getting into business with them. You've got to ask yourself, am I ready to get into a lot of trouble with this person for the next decade or 2? Am I ready for my financial future to be on the line with this person? How well do I really know them? By the way, marriage is a perfect example of how when people, they fall in love with the deal before they look at the numbers. I never thought of that before, but people usually fall in love and then they find, oh, his temper's so cute. Really? I don't think so. Hey, Aladdin. It's not cute. You need to look really objectively at the person's faults and their temperament and everything about them and see what their friends say. That's Scuttlebutt. And see what their relatives say. See what other people say about them online and in person. See what their teachers say. But I digress. You need to partner really well. pull a credit check, pull a reference check. Tell them to pull one on you too. Find out if there's any criminal history. Look back in their social media pages for years. See what their history's like. And if they always have a self-pity story about how this boss or this partner or this whatever hurt them, you should be really suspicious of that. They might be right, but even if they are right, do you really want to partner with somebody who draws negative things into their lives all the time? That happens. I was in, I won't say where because I don't want them to be listening, but I was at a meeting recently, and a really fairly accomplished investment syndicator was telling me all the people who had hurt him over the years. You know what? I didn't really want to invest with him because I thought either he draws this kind of hurt or he's got self-pity or maybe he's at fault, So just be really careful who you partner with. Partner well. Okay, number 9. This is for all the guys out there, okay? But you ladies are going to love it even more, okay? Listen to your wife. All right. Listen to your wife or significant other. And if you're a lady, listen to your husband. Here's what I mean. Often our spouses, our wives in my case, know, they have an intuitive knowing. There's like 3,000 ways to read a person. You only know 10 or 20 with your brain. Like, you might know what this means, or you might know what this means. Maybe some of you are doing that right now. But you probably don't know what, like if they put their elbow, if they move it up, you might not know what that means. Or if they move their eyebrow on the slightest little twitch, or their hairline their forehead wrinkles, all these things in combination, your subconscious brain knows what those mean. Well, often you, as the person doing the deal, have a profit motive that overrides. Your brain will override your gut. You need to learn to listen to your gut. A Texas oil man once said, if somebody comes in here with a geology report and everything looks perfect, all the profit looks good, and they want me to partner with them, but there's something in my gut telling me something's wrong. Something just isn't right. Or if I sense the slightest bit of BS, he said, I will show them the door immediately, because I know that if there's a fly buzzing around, there's some BS down below. He didn't say BS, but you know what I'm talking about, folks. So learn to listen to your gut. Learn to listen to your wife or husband or significant other, because often they don't have a dog in the fight and they can see these things more clearly. I have lost so much money not listening to my wife. She gave me some advice this morning I ignored. Sorry, but seriously. And don't just write them off and say, oh, they don't understand real estate. They don't understand the deal. They do understand people, and they probably have a better handle on who you're going to partner with than you do. So take your wife or spouse or husband along and listen, even if they don't know much about that subject matter that you are investing in. So we're coming to the end here, folks. Number 10, piece of advice for real estate newbies or experienced investors. Learn the difference between active and passive investing. Now, I am going to offend some of you. So if you guys want to get a coffee, you guys, especially on the West Coast, now's probably a pretty good time to put it on pause, walk away, ignore this next point, because I'm going to definitely offend some people out there. But here's my advice. I talk to people in Silicon Valley all the time. I talk to doctors, dentists, lawyers, IT people that make a lot of money, and they're spending a lot of their free time. I mean, their evenings, their weekends, their lunch hours, their vacations, looking for that one elusive house to flip. And they think that they can, be just like Chip and Joanna Gaines on HGTV. And everybody can, for sure. Hey, if I could do it, you can do it. I've done dozens and dozens and dozens of flip homes, lease to owns, lease option sandwiches, Airbnb, all kinds of things. You can do it. But listen, if you have a well-paying job that you really like, you might make more money focusing on your job, taking that extra money that you're making and investing that passively. And so that's point number 10. Consider being a passive investor. There's two types of passive investors. There's an active passive and a passive passive. Now, a passive passive does a ton of due diligence on the operator, and then they just write them checks and they trust them to do the deals. That's a passive investor. They still do a lot of due diligence up front. Now, an active passive investor does a ton of due diligence on the operator, but then they also do diligence on all the deals as well. They want to stay involved. They want to fly out or drive out to the site. They want to see each house that's being flipped, or they want to see each property that they're investing in. And I think that's great. I think either one are great. And if you plan to eventually slow down at work or retire and eventually get involved in real estate investing more, you're probably going to want to be an active passive investor because you're going to want to learn the business. So with that, somebody would like to know the 10 pieces of advice summarized. So here we go. Ready? Oh, I forgot to tell you my John D. Rockefeller quote. John D. Rockefeller was one of the richest people in world history, one of the most successful entrepreneurs of all time. He was an entrepreneur through the mid to late 1800s, and he killed it. He gave away $7 billion, he and Andrew Carnegie each. That's a lot of money. I think that's in today's dollars, by the way. But anyway, John D. Rockefeller said, I would rather make 1% off of 100 people's labor than make 100% off of my own labor. Think about that, and think about the power of diversification as we wrap up this point number 10, and that is consider being a passive investor. Give me a thumbs up if you like that idea, by the way. So we're going to go through the 10 pieces of advice, and thank you, Sarah, and then I'm going to quickly go through 7 paths to real estate mastery. We're going to take a handful of questions and wrap it. So number 1, learn to say no. Number 2, have your default be to walk away and say no to every deal you can. Number 3, don't fall in love with real estate. Don't fall in love with the deal. Fall in love with the numbers. Number 4, learn to investulate? What? That's a new word. Learn to invest rather than speculate. And by the way, speculating is fine as long as you know you're doing it and you can do it with a small piece of your portfolio. Number 5, ask 3 good questions as a professional investor. What can I make? What can I lose? And can I afford to lose it? Number 6, use Scuttlebutt. Somebody asked me what that is. Kara, Scuttlebutt is all the rumor mill and all the rumors and all the off-the-record stuff that you can find out about a property or a deal or a company. Number 7, find a business that's simple, understandable, and predictable. Apartments are very predictable. People are going to be living in apartments as long as this world is the world. And so it's pretty understandable, simple, and predictable. A highly automated self-storage facility with robots picking up the stuff, that's not so simple, understandable, and predictable. So it's fine, and you might make a lot of money doing it, but you never know. Number 8, partner well. Number 9, listen to your spouse or somebody else. And number 10, consider active versus passive investing. Consider which one you want to do and do it well. Alex says he's not going to do it. I get it. And that's totally fine. Most people on here want to be active investors. Tina Conway says, how can I become a passive investor? Tina, what you're going to want to do is go to some crowdfunding sites or go on Bigger Pockets and find a good syndicator or fund to invest with, okay? And so there's lots of great funds, syndicators, places you can invest as a passive third party you can invest in. And I highly recommend that you consider doing that if you want to be a passive investor. You're welcome, Tina. All right. So who wants to hear 7 paths to real estate investing success? This is something else you could write down if you want to. Yes, Sally, you can do both active and passive, and that's what I'm doing, in fact. Let's go over 7 paths to real estate investing mastery, and I promise you I'm going to go very quick on this, and if anybody wants to dive in deeper, I can try to do it. So here we go. Path number 1. Stacking. Brandon Turner talks about stacking. That's buying like a single family house, fixing it up, selling it, making a profit, go to a duplex, fix it up, rent it out, sell it, go to a fourplex, fix it up, rent it up, go to a 10plex or whatever. And you just keep growing like that. I know a guy in Arlington, Texas who did this. He started with $1,000 cash. And when I met him, he was selling an $11 or $12 million 132-unit apartment complex. Pretty amazing. That took 22 years. It's a long, hard road. Number 2, be a deal finder. Find a syndicator or sponsor and you find them deals. It's really hard to do that right now, but there's going to come a day when the market turns and it'll be easier. Be a good deal finder. Number 3, be a capital raiser. Now, folks, you got to know that there's some SEC regulations that would stop you from doing this and just getting a commission. You have to be licensed or you have to be part of the deal as a principal, okay? Be a capital development specialist or a deal finder. Our good friend Matt Fairchild with Bigger Pockets has a book on raising private capital. I highly recommend you get it if you want to be a capital raiser. Number 4, if you are already wealthy or have access to a lot of money, you sold your Bitcoin on December 12th, 2017 before it plunged into the abyss a week later, or you got an inheritance, or you sold your IT company, or you sold your Apple stock at the top, you got millions of dollars, you can jump in at a big level yourself. You need to get a really, really good team around you if you're going to do that. Okay, that's path number 4. Path number 5, get a job. Oh, you guys are going to come down on me with fire now, right? Hey, check out my Bigger Pockets article. I just wrote a Bigger Pockets article called How to Get Involved in Real Estate If You Don't Know Anything. Something like that. I don't know. Anyway, it's new out there. Paul Moore, Bigger Pockets. And it's basically saying you can get a job as a commercial real estate broker, a commercial mortgage lender, as a property manager, as an asset manager, or a financial analyst. Those are 5 jobs in the commercial real estate world or the real estate investing world that you could consider. And by getting a job, you'll get to know people, you'll get to know resources, you'll learn to underwrite. It'll basically be school, and you'll make some money along the way. Path number 6, I already talked about, and that is consider being a passive investor. You can be active, passive, and you can learn the business, and then you can work your way into a partnership. By the way, you can also be a passive investor and a deal finder, or a passive investor and a capital raiser. Those are some things I highly recommend. And path number 7 and final path to multifamily, self-storage, or any kind of real estate investing success is find a coach or mentor. Now, there are 2 good ways to find a coach or a mentor. One is by going on Bigger Pockets or somewhere else and finding a paid coach. There's all kinds of great paid coaches out there. One of my favorite is Michael Blank, Blank. He's from Ashburn, Virginia, by the way, area. And he charges a certain amount of money, and he will coach you for a long time. Joe Fairless is really good. He's charges as well. 37th Parallel in Richmond is my favorite because I went through their program. And so I know it better than any. But there's a lot of really good ones. Sean, you can contact me if you want a coach. Anybody who wants a coach, you can get a hold of me and we will advise a good coach or mentor for you. There's also paid mentoring, like on little short-term mentoring, like you can do a weekend retreat, spend a couple $1,000s and get you, set a course for your real estate investing success. And if you want to know more about a weekend retreat for a few $1,000s where you can do that, just contact me at Bigger Pockets. And another way to do it would be to find be an apprentice to a master. There's a lady in California who is on my my How to Lose Money podcast, and she's going to be featured in my next Bigger Pockets article and also in my self-storage book. She went out and she said, I'll work for free for you just to learn your business. And she worked for free for a company. She learned their business, and now she's crushing it, making big bucks as the top leasing agent in all of San Francisco. And I think you would recognize her name if you're in San Francisco. She's the top leasing agent for luxury residential in San Francisco. So I said a lot. We had a lot of fun here. And so what I'm going to do is ask you, if you're on Facebook Live, if you've asked a question and I haven't answered it, please copy and paste it back in, and I'll try to answer it right now. Same on YouTube. Actually, I'll probably get to most of the questions on YouTube. I've only got a little time here, and so I hopefully will be able to get to as many questions as I can. Nick Torres says, good information, working on my 4th investment property with a seasoned partner. I'll keep this information in mind. Thanks, Nick. All right. So I am going to try to get to some of the questions here. Sean says, as a first-time buyer with excellent credit, banks are offering me 0 down. Wow. At 5.03 fixed % interest. What are some of the pitfalls? Should I purchase 20% lower and refinance? Can bank from doing that? I don't know, Sean. I think there's a pitfall. I mean, you need to, okay, so my 11th piece of advice to real estate investing newbies is build in a margin of safety. It's okay to buy at 100% financing, Sean, if there's a significant margin of safety. Like if you're paying $50,000 for a house you can do a little work on and sell for $120,000, that's one thing. If you're paying, let's say $120,000 for a house that's worth $130,000, and you're financing 100%, it's probably not a great idea unless you can unless the margin of safety is somehow splitting the house into a duplex and renting each side for $1,000 a month. You want to find a margin of safety if you're going to do anything like that, Sean. And I think, again, that would have been my 11th piece of advice today if I would have thought of it. Munir says, hi, is it advisable to invest in residential property with whole cash down versus mortgage? Lots of people say that a person shall save his capital money and mortgage as it is available at lower interest rate. You know, Munir, Dave Ramsey would tell you don't get a mortgage if you can help it. Almost every successful real estate investor that I've ever heard of uses a fair amount of safe leverage. So I would use a mortgage, Munir. And if you have cash to invest, you'll be able to spread it much farther. And you can even put some in a passive investment as well if you have a lot. Fortune Solace says, going into property investment with little or no money, true or false? Not sure how to answer that. So if somebody else has an answer, go for it. Someone says, who's in Houston? Howdy, what was that Our Future MD1? Howdy, what was the book on raising capital? There are several books on raising capital, but of course I'm going to recommend my friend's Matt Faircloth. Matt Faircloth wrote a book on Bigger Pockets. Go to biggerpockets.com / I think books or bookstore, and you'll find Matt Faircloth's book on raising private money. That's the book you want. Wanderlust, which is a better option, owning and selling for a profit or renting a property? It just depends. You know, some people like to do a mix of flipping, and then they make some money, and then they go buy a house to hold and rent. It really just depends. You just want to do the numbers, and there's lots and lots of tools on Bigger Pockets, and books in the bookstore will tell you some math on how to do that. Mono Art is back with us today. Thanks for coming back. Is a restaurant business a good idea? It's highly risky, but they make a lot of money if they succeed. I will tell you that I was at Chick-fil-A yesterday in my town, and the place was packed, and it wasn't even the lunch hour yet. And I asked them how much money they made. They said 7 or 8 million gross a year. So if that owner nets 8%, that's like, what would that be? 8 times? That'd be $560,000. So I'll tell you, honestly, if you're going to do a restaurant, I'd highly, highly recommend doing a franchise. By the way, I'm not an expert in restaurants, but I will tell you that franchises do much, much better. Antonio says, when will you be live again, sir? Probably 2 or 3 weeks today. Hey, I'm heading out of here and going up to Canada to go fishing with my son, so it's going to be really fun. Munir already answered that. Drones. Connor says, do you know how when you get stock from your company, you can sell it to invest in rental property with limited taxes? Yeah, Connor. So if you are investing in an opportunity zone fund, which I can recommend one, a guy named Scott, if you reach out to me, he's got an opportunity zone fund. You can actually invest and not pay capital gains tax. If you have a whole lot of money you're selling stocks for, you can consider a deferred sales trust, which is different from a Delaware statutory trust, even though they're both called DSTs. And of course, there's other ways to save on taxes, but those are the two best that I'm aware of. Storefront Flip says, do you suggest staying away from cities like Chicago to go to suburbs or go to smaller cities? You know, it's funny you should mention that. I'm working with a family office who's investing with my fund, and they're in Chicago, and they said, we wouldn't be really excited about investing with you if you were investing in Chicago. And so, yeah, I would stay away right now. Chicago, San Francisco, Boston, New York, LA, places like that are highly, highly overheated. And Chicago happens to be the one town of that group that I think is actually possibly looking at a potential of some negative population growth. How about population decrease? How about I say it that way? So I would be really careful investing in Chicago. I would look for places where you can find a niche or maybe a fractured ownership situation. If you don't know about fractured ownership, I've got some webinars on my website, wellingscapital.com, that talks about the importance of fractured ownership when you're buying. Nick Torre says, okay, you already said that. Justin Weaver, do you have any recommendations on good books about commercial real estate brokerage? Justin, you stumped me. I don't know. If somebody else can answer, that would be great. I would go on the websites where they do training to become a commercial real estate broker. There's some certifications you can get as a commercial real estate broker. I'm guessing you could get some training, and there'll be some books they recommend with that. Great question, and I'm definitely stumped. Ronstead de la Pena Yog says, hello, property with a subject to tenant rights is a good or bad idea. You know, there's a lot of those in California, Oregon, Washington, and I just don't know if I know how to comment on that. It could be a really good or bad idea, depending, thanks Seth, on all the numbers. Again, don't fall in love with the deal, fall in love with the numbers, and see if they work. Big Boy says, how can a dummy like me, don't call yourself a dummy, God didn't make no junk. How can you learn real estate buying? Well, there's a lot of great books and lots of resources on Bigger Pockets you can learn from. Any recommendations on wholesale lease options for mobile homes individually, not the whole park? You know, they're really, really, really high risk, Rick. I would take a real careful look at not doing that. I don't want to discourage you. Wholesale lease options for mobile homes. What you're going to want to do is go to a mobile home park, a large one, and ask them if they have any park-owned homes they don't want to own anymore, and see if they will do a lease to own to you. You take it over, and then you sell it or lease to own it, rent to own it to a potential tenant or buyer. Okay? Hope that makes sense. Dan Jenkins says, when you invest with a syndication company, are you investing in individual deals, or does it work like a fund? Or do you get to choose a portfolio of deals? Dan, that's a great question. There's very few that give you a choice within a fund. First of all, most of them you're investing in individual deals, and that's what I've been doing for years. But we decided to go to a fund model this year, and we asked ourselves, do we want to give people individual choice within the fund, or do we want them to just have to take the whole fund as is? And we decided to go with the whole fund model. It's just far, far easier for everybody. And our investors are trusting us to pick the operators, to do the extreme due diligence, and then pick the deals. And that's what we do. And that's what we do for a living. But there's all kinds of other great syndicators and operators out there. And so you should be able to find one on Bigger Pockets. Make sure you check all the references, do the due diligence, etc. Some of the crowdfunding sites have some great operators as well. Seth, I found one, and I invested with one recently that I found on a crowdfunding site originally. Seth says, what do I do about low credit score in the midst of trying to refi? You really threw me with the refi part. You're just going to have to get your credit score up as fast as you can. But if you had a low credit score, you can still do rent to own or lease option sandwiches, by the way. So hopefully that helps a little. Henyang Wang, hey, I think I saw you last week. What state should you open a holding company? Go for Delaware first. They're very owner friendly, and then Nevada second, perhaps. Erasmo says, I'm an investor in Houston and New York and new to the game. Let's network. Real estate is a team effort. Okay, anybody want to network with Erasmo Rivera? Please do. Joe Pratt says, do you know of any books, articles, or website that have scripts for cold calling, pre-foreclosure, or tired landlords? Or do you have any scripts? Gosh, Joe, I could help you. If you were in like a mentor weekend, we could develop our own scripts for you. That would be really specific to your situation, but I don't know of any. You might want to Google yellow letters. I know that sounds funny, but yellow letters, that's a type of letter you send to an owner for this type of thing. You might be able to pull a script off of a yellow letter. And those of you who know what I'm talking about, I'm sorry. Those who don't, you just have to, somebody told me that years ago and I went and Googled it, and that's what I'd ask you to do. I don't really know where that is though. Mono Art says, have I to work years to have a good credit score to get a mortgage? No, probably you can get a good credit score within a year. Get a credit card, run it up, pay it off, run it up, pay it off every month for like 6 months. There's certain credit cards you can Google, by the way, that will help you build your credit score faster. And if my son was here, he would tell you which ones because he just studied this. Jonathan says, I have one duplex I'm currently house hacking and I'm about to move out and rent both units. Should I get an LLC? Jonathan, you can. Great question. Some people say you don't really need one till you've got 2 or 3. I would definitely go and get a $1 million umbrella insurance policy, cover you for a couple $100. LLC, you could, especially when you get 2 or 3 or 4 properties, you're going to want to start considering getting LLCs. And like I said, you could up front. If you set it up yourself, you can do it for very low money. Get your own federal ID number. Gel Bengu says, what investment strategy can you follow in a market where monthly rent is about half of a percent of the initial investment? You can't even apply the 1% rule. Ugh. Well, you could try Airbnb. I mean, I don't know if that fits your situation, but that's probably an urban area. And you could try to do Airbnb and long-term corporate rentals. By the way, if you're looking to do Airbnb or long-term corporate rentals, check in with me, because we've got a friend named Al who has a wonderful program that trains people to do it. I just got an email a couple weeks ago saying, thank you for introducing me to Al, because now we're making like $7,000, or it could have been $17,000 a month from our Airbnbs. Pretty amazing. They said they're making $3,000 or more profit from one of their corporate leases or Airbnbs, and they don't even own the property. They're leasing it and they're putting it on an Airbnb program. Highly recommend my friend Al's program. Is real estate still profitable? Yes, it can be, but it's tough. Sean, container homes, a dud or plus? It can work depending on where you are. You can use containers also to do self-storage, and the cool thing about it is you can do the depreciation on them quickly based on the new tax law. Justin Weaver says, check out Small Change for a good crowdfunding platform. Justin, tell us more. I don't know about that. Small Change. Seth says, what markets are you eyeing right now and looking into the future? I really like the Southern Smile. You can Google that. That's like the South from let's say Charleston, South Carolina, down through Atlanta, down through Dallas, Houston, up through Albuquerque, and then kind of back through Phoenix, Scottsdale, Arizona area. That's the area I like. But there's a lot of other good ones. Here is San Antonio. I have a ton of wholesale deals. Really? But everyone here is a wholesaler that pretends to be a buyer. How do I find a buyer? Go to the courthouse steps, stand on the courthouse steps, see who else is bidding, give them your business card and say, hey, I might have an easier way for you to get homes than stand here on the courthouse steps and bid against these other 24 people. That's a way to do it. You can also put an ad in Craigslist. Marcus says, I have an S Corporation LLC. Yep, so do I. Trying to find startup funds, but I have terrible credit. You need to partner with somebody. Find a really good partner that has some private money to loan. Sorrel Rich says, how does an expat start off investing in real estate after returning to the USA? I would find a mentor, especially if you have any money. What's the best business model in 2019? Lease option sandwiches, rent-to-own sandwiches, and Airbnb, corporate rentals, stuff like that. How about South Carolina for mobile home park investing? Yeah, Mary, it's good. In fact, I think I know somebody who might be doing a deal there now. By the way, I know somebody who's doing an apartment deal in South Carolina. It's really, really hard to find apartment deals. And I wrote a book on apartment deals and how much I love apartments. I haven't invested in apartments in a long, long time, but I might be going to soon. I found a really good deal with a friend in South Carolina. You can check it out. If you reach out to me and ask about that, I just want to be real clear. I'm getting ready to go away from Bigger Pockets and out of town for a while. So ask specifically to catch up with me when I return June 23rd. Henjin Huang says, what state should I open a holding company for tax benefits and privacy? I have properties in Ohio, New York. Do you have any recommendations for the CPA or somebody who can set it up for me? Yes, I do, Henjin. Get a hold of me on Bigger Pockets. I can give you a couple great CPAs, tax consultants, and we can hopefully help you get started. I would recommend Delaware. I heard Nevada's good too. I don't know all the details on that. I'm not a tax professional. Oh, did I say June 23rd, Tony? I meant July 23rd. Silly me. About 10 days from now. Tri-state area market any good? Kayo, I don't know which tri-state. There's a Cincinnati, there's Oregon, there's all kind of tri-states. I'm sorry. Recommendations on learning lease option sandwiches and wholesale lease options. 661 Rick. I think you're going to have to Google it. I don't know if anybody out there has written extensively on lease option sandwich, wholesale lease options, rent-to-own sandwiches, etc. I love that model, though. I've Googled it once, and it was there. And if anybody pops into my mentoring thing, I can help you with that more. By the way, I'll be doing a mentoring call at 11 a.m. on Wednesday. It's a free call. I can't remember the day, though. Let me try to find out. And then before I'm logging off here, Wednesday, July. I didn't say June. Stop it. Wednesday, July 31st at 11 a.m. If you want to be on a mentoring call, I can answer some of your questions. You're going to have to contact me, friend me on Bigger Pockets, and ask for that information. I can help you a little more there in some cases. Justin Weaver says, Small Change is an online real estate crowdfunding and investment portal that makes cities better. Oh, yeah, I've heard that. Turn small change into real change. I like it. Okay, I just had to say it that way. So, folks, I'm going to wrap up in a minute. So if you have one last question, I'll try to do a lightning round and see if I can help. Jose says, is Denver a good place to invest? Not so much right now. Kaio says, Tri-States is Connecticut, New Jersey, and New York. It's a really, really, really hard time and hard place to find good deals right now. If you can find a deal off market, like an abandoned house or something that nobody else knows of, or your uncle has or something, that's something to consider. It's really, really hard to find a good deal in Denver as well, but that's going to change. Denver someday will be a place where property prices will drop again, I'm sure. Amono says, how can I minimize my real estate tax? Oh, commercial real estate investing is your way to go, my friend. Thank you, Danny. Marcus, what's website? I missed that. What's my website? wellingscapital.com. WELLINGSCAPITAL. Nashville, M. Seal. You reminded me. Did you know Bigger Pockets is having our first annual conference? And Brandon Turner will be speaking there. David Green, Matt Faircloth, moi, that's me, will be speaking in October 6th and 7th, I think, in Nashville. Check it out. It's going to sell out quick. After all, there's 1.2 million or more people in Bigger Pockets. They've only got room for 1,000. Do I recommend stock? No. Marcus, okay, going there now. Great. Dude Real Estate. Hey, Mr. Dude Real Estate, my friend Nate. Hey, if anybody's looking for a mentor in the Chicago area, check out Dude Real Estate here. My good friend Nate Shields will take care of you. Michael says, I want to owner finance some of my rental property. Who could help me set that up? Nate, Dude Real Estate might be able to help you. King Gene, what's the name of your fund and minimum requirements? We are $50,000 minimum, and it's for accredited investors, and it's called Wellings. We have Wellings Income Fund 1 and Wellings Growth Fund 1. Both of those are paused at the moment, but we will have opportunities to get into those again. Seth Bartholomew says, I know this gets asked all the time, but how many properties do you put in one LLC? Some people say put in one per LLC, Seth. Other people say it's fine to put in multiple per LLC. Viviana says mentors in Seattle. No, most mentors I know are all over the country, but not in Seattle. I don't recommend gold and silver. What did you mean about real estate still being profitable? It's incredibly profitable. It always is and will be, but there are bad deals, and there are lots of times when it's really hard to find a good deal. Henjun Huang says, I don't know how to get a hold of you. It's wellingscapital.com. I'm going to spell it out, and then I'm going to wrap it up, folks. It's WELLINGS, capital CAPITAL, wellingscapital.com. Folks, that does it for me. Thank you. Have a happy Saturday. Have a happy weekend, and hope to see you all at the Bigger Pockets Conference in Nashville in October and back online here in 2 or 3 weeks. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the sun. And if you're in the New Orleans area, we are praying for you to avoid this hurricane that's coming in. Okay, take care.